Good evening and welcome to this Men's Health Forum. As far as we're concerned, this month, there's a focus on prostate cancer tonight. We have some people here who have extremely worthwhile contributions to make. And I'm glad to see that there are a lot of men here in the background who are trying to find out some information, because I know that's going to be a key topic. Errol, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to leave this aspect of it to you. Please just tell everybody your story.
Right. Good evening, gents. There's a lot of wonderful faces that I know. Mr. Regis himself, right, used to put a lot of balls past me when I was a kid in goal. So I'm still traumatized, as you can see, 63 years later. Hi, Chris. How you doing, sir? And good evening to everyone. Well, let's start with my story. Prostate cancer and me. Well, my journey with prostate cancer started at the end of 2010. My wife was complaining about me snoring in my sleep. And before we go any further, snoring doesn't have anything to do with prostate cancer. But the reason why I mention it is because that is why I found out that I had prostate cancer purely by accident. So I said to my wife, look, you know, Sharon, make an appointment with the doctor and I'll go. So she did that, went to the doctor, sat down in the reception room, waiting to see the doctor, picked up a leaflet from Prostate Cancer UK, read the leaflet. I thought, okay, let me go and make an appointment to come back and do this test. Got to the reception, spoke to the young lady there. She said, Mr. McKellar, you don't need to make an appointment. It's a simple blood test, takes less than 10 minutes. Well, a little did I realize that that 10 minutes was going to change the rest of my life. So did that, came back out, sat back down, waited to see the doctor about the snoring. When I got home in the evening, the wife was cooking dinner at the time, and I just said to her in conversation, I said, by the way, while I was waiting to see the doctor about the snoring, I did a test for prostate cancer. So she immediately stopped cooking and she looked at me and she said to me, what's that got to do with your snoring? So, you know, luckily the answer that I gave her was good enough for me to get my dinner that night. So, but to move the story on, right, a week after that, I was given a phone call to come back and do another blood test, right? 1 week after that second blood test, I had a phone call to come in and do a biopsy. And then a week after that biopsy, they called me in to do a scan. And 4 days after the scan, they called me and my wife in. We sat down. They said, Mr. McKellar, your prostate is covered in cancer. Well, I got up and I walked out of the room because I didn't think this conversation, right, was, you know, it was related to me. I felt the whole thing just went right over my head. I came out, went and I sat in my car, and I don't know to this day whether I was scared or frightened or both. You know, I just burst into tears, and I think it's because I didn't know what I was going to do next. And, you know, one of the inspirational things that I will always remember is that, you know, my wife came in and she sat in the car and she turned to me and she said, look, she said, I've never seen you quit on anything that you've ever done in your life. So, you know, let's go in there and deal with this. So I stopped crying and I had to kind of man up and say, well, okay, you know, there's one of two ways I've got to take this. Either she's having a go at me or this is her way of motivating me. So I took it the latter, that's what she was doing. That's what she was doing. So we both went back in to see the doctor. I said, doctor, what do I need to do to deal with this problem? He said, Mr. McKellar, if we don't remove your prostate, right, you could be dead in 6 months. So I said, look, doctor, right, if that's what we got to do, let's do it. He said, look, there will be some issues you have to deal with. There will be some side effects that you're going to have to come to terms with. I said, doctor, if I have a chance of being alive, I'll take that. So I had the operation. There were still traces of cancer left after the operation. So I had to have nearly 3 months of radiotherapy to get rid of the rest of the cancer. That was a difficult period, right? And during that time, I turned to my wife and I said to her, you know what, Shara, I said, I consider myself to be very, very lucky, right? Because if was as bad as what the doctor's telling me, then I shouldn't really be here, you know. And again, you know, because in our lives, right, as men, we often forget how inspirational the women are in our lives. You know, my wife, she turned to me and she said, listen, right, this cancer only knocked you down. It hasn't knocked you out, you know. And she said, knowing you, you will go 12 rounds with it, but you will take everybody with you in order to find a way of winning this battle. So I took that as my inspiration. And after being out of work for nearly 6 months, I went back to my day job, right, which was running a garage, fixing cars, servicing MOTs and repairs. The first day I went back to work, a guy walked into my garage and, you know, we got into conversation. He said, you know what, really pleased to see you back. And to this day, I don't even know why or where the wisdom come for me to say what I said to him. I turned to him and I said to him, you know, when was the last time you had your prostate checked? And he immediately, you know, the pleasant conversation stopped and he turned to me and he said, what the bleep, bleep, bleep has that got to do with my gearbox not working? So I turned to him and I said to him, look, I will give you a 20% discount on the work I'm going to do on your car if you go and get your prostate checked. Well, 2 weeks later, he came back in the garage to pick up his car and he was waving this bit of paper in his hand. And he said to me, I took your advice and I went and done that test. And I looked up to the sky and I looked back at him and I thought, Christ, this has just cost me 200 quid. And he must have seen the look on my face because he turned to me and he said to me, listen, don't worry about the money, right? And again, I looked at him and I thought, thank God for that. But he said, listen, he said, I think you better read this letter. And when I opened his letter that he gave me to read, he had 25.5% cancer in his prostate, you know, and he turned to me and he said, listen, he said, you need to donate that money to charity, but more importantly, you need to raise the awareness of this issue. Because he said, I would never have gone and got myself checked, right, had you not said it. And he was the first of 48 guys that walked into my garage that was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
Errol, I mean, that is, I mean, obviously I've heard the story before and it's an amazing story every time we hear it. So we're going to hear more from Errol as we go on.
Yeah.
Chris Joseph.
Hi, good evening, ladies and gents. Thank you for supporting this call. It's a call that many people kind of shy away from, but it's something that we need to hear. It might not be directly connected or affecting you or a family member, but you'd be surprised how many friends and people around you are affected by this. My situation was my dad, who was living abroad in New York, is living abroad in New York, and he was able to inform me that he had a little surgery, he called it. I said, what do you mean a little surgery? He goes, well, you know, I just had a little surgery, and they've said I need to have some more medication. Because obviously your parents, as we know, they don't always tell you the full story. They don't want to worry you. But he explained it to me slowly, and over a few weeks I understood that he had cancer and he was getting some chemo treatment. But the visit was a situation where he was going weekly over a period of time to clear it up. So the good thing was he went through that period and he came through clear. And then my uncle got it, like a year later. Now, my uncle was a bit younger than my dad, and he said, Chris, check yours. I said, check my what? I didn't really understand, you know, at the time, what checks I had to do. And I was told to go and check my prostate. I went down to my doctors. At that time, it was a physical examination and told me it's fine. And I explained to him that my father and my uncle had it. It's in my genes, it's in my family genes. And he suggested I have a yearly test. And that happened for 4 years. I had a yearly test which involved, at that time now, it moved on to a blood test. I had my yearly blood test, and in November of 2018, I had a blood test, and I was told to come back again for another blood test within a couple of weeks. And then I was called in and asked to go to have to see the doctor, and they explained to me that they've seen a rise in my PSA levels on my prostate, and they would like to have an examination of the prostate. And that's when I went and had the biopsy, which was basically a morning surgery, a day surgery, where they injected pellets into the prostate and they took samples. But due to them having a scan of my prostate prior to that surgery, they were able to know the good part of the prostate from the bad part, and it came back that I had 30% of my prostate was cancerous. It didn't come across like that straight away because this had moved on to December. My birthday is Christmas Day. And prior to Christmas, I think it was around the 20th of Christmas, I had the actual test, and I had to wait for the results over the Christmas holidays. And then I got a call to attend the doctor's clinic on the 4th of January. And I was informed, my wife came along with me, and I was informed that that I had cancer and they needed to do something within the first 6 months to make a decision. They said to me, look, go away and talk about it, think about it. Your prostate. Now, I was never living in a bubble with cancer. Some people have. But I lost a dear friend a couple of years before that. He got informed he had cancer, and within a week he was dead. So that made me wake up that cancer was nothing to be playing with. He never had a chance to fight it. I had a chance to have surgery. I had a chance to go and have some treatment. But my decision was to have it removed. I made that decision. I made that decision early, but it was delayed due to I had a kidney stone. So around 5 months later, I had my surgery and had a robotic removal of my prostate. This is 2 years now. This year will be 2 years I'm in remission of it. And that's how I found out. And I informed a group of guys, many guys. I'm a speaker. I'm not afraid to speak about it. Some people are not. Because when I started to speak about my situation and my surgery that I was going to have, if I spoke to 30 guys, I honestly tell you, 6 of them told me they had already gone through this process. And I would consider them a good friend, and I never knew. Whereas when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, I done a video and I sent it out. The same way people want to send out jokes and send out information that they don't know about, I sent them a personal video of myself on the day after I came back saying, I've been diagnosed. Go and get your PSA tested. That's where I started off. So if you want to come back to me later on, that is where I started off. Thank you.
That's a great share, Chris. That's a great share. Okay, Dr. Rajesh, I'm going to come to you shortly to sum some things up, but I'm first now going to go to Mick Brown. Mick, please.
Hi there. My name is Michael. My story is that I used to be a fairly big guy, around about 18.5 stone. And with that weight, I became diabetic, type 2 diabetes. And when you're diabetes, you have yearly checks of everything, your statin, your blood pressure, your eyes, and prostate. Was just so year in, year out, I'd have my prostate, think nothing of it. I have a yearly check. And as they told me that you could have symptoms of prostate, which is getting up at night and going to the toilet 10 times a night if possible, but I didn't have any that type of symptoms. And it was September 2019. I was going away on holiday, and the day before I went to the doctor's, got my paperwork to have my blood test, had my blood test, went away on holiday, and when I got back, I had a phone call from the GP saying that my PSA was pretty high. I had a normal. So then after that, within a week and a half, I was sent to the hospital. I had a prostate check, which was a bit uncomfortable, but sure, it came back. They found something on the prostate, inside the prostate. I then, like the other two chaps, I had a scan. They then saw something. And then I had a biopsy. And January of 2020, now this is just before the COVID kicked in, they gave me a date of the 23rd to have an operation. And by luck, somebody cancelled early in January. So I was able to have my surgery then. But if it wasn't for that, I could have been one, because I know people now who've missed their surgery due to the COVID, and they're cancelling all the cancer operations. So I was very lucky that it's only by chance, for me being diabetic and having these yearly checks, why I found out that, because my symptoms was that when I went to the toilet, I wouldn't wee straight away, and the flow of the wee wasn't strong enough. And I thought nothing of it. So if I'd carried on that way, guarantee you now I'd be dead. So really and truly, I was very, very lucky.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks. That's another great share. Okay, we're going to go to Sam now. So can you unmute yourself, Sam? Then we're going to go to the doctor, and then B, I can see you want to ask a question. So we'll do it in that order. So Sam, please.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Good evening, all the persons on the call who are in remission. I know that journey. I've experienced it, and those people who are who may know someone directly or indirectly, yes, there's lots for all of us to do. And how we can do that is just basically having that discussion. It starts with a discussion, and that's how we started with myself. So I am a photographer going about my daily duties, taking pictures of what I love to do. And basically, many people ask me, oh, have you checked out for prostate cancer? And I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So I went to my doctor. My doctor kind of fobbed me off. He said, no, you're okay. You know, he asked the obligatory questions. Is someone in your family or your dad, has he suffered with prostate cancer, or uncle, or so on? I said, no. And then he said, okay, that's fine. Okay, do you have any problems going to the toilet? I said, no. And the point I'm getting at, there was no symptoms. So, you know, that passed. And then one day out of the blue, a really good friend of mine, he just sent me a WhatsApp message, an innocent WhatsApp message. And it was basically a trial from UCL. And it went something like this. If you're male between 40 and 50 and you're Caribbean, African descent, we are offering a trial for diagnosis or testing for prostate cancer. And I said, oh, that sounds interesting. So I, followed through, phoned, couldn't get through, ended up going on Twitter, getting in contact with the head of the program. And lo and behold, the Monday, someone just called me and said, you're invited to come along. Now, the testing on that was really rigorous, and that's what attracted me. It was a blood test, it was ultrasound, and it was an MRI scan. So, no expense spared on that. I just, I said, okay, that's fine. I'll, take that. So yes, I went, got my blood test. The information came back. It was inconclusive. They said, could be something there, not quite sure. Went along to the hospital, Charing Cross. And I have to say, the NHS, I couldn't afford to get the treatment. I couldn't afford to pay for the treatment I received on NHS. The consultant I had, his team, the surgeon was absolutely first rate. So in that respect, I suppose, again, I'm fortunate. So when I, got to the hospital and asked, oh, who paid for this service, or how did this all manufacture itself? And the person said, there's 400 people on the program, or there's 350 or something. and you're one of the 350 people who have been selected to, to go forward with this testing. So I had to go to test in three different dates, 3 different hospitals to have these, the MRI scan in particular done. So the results came back of the blood. It was inconclusive. The ultrasound, we can see a couple of specks, but nothing really to worry about. And then we had the MRI scan. Now, if you know what MRI scan is, they put you through this tube and they basically, photograph you from the inside, pinpointing exactly what they're looking for. And that came back and it was as clear as day. It's like a picture, photographic picture. And I've still got the picture to today. And I received the call, and that call was from a consultant, consultant from the Charing Cross team, urology team. And he basically said to me on the phone, yep, you've got prostate cancer. He didn't beat around the bush. He just came directly out and just said it. At that point, you go numb, which is what you heard from other members. I was away at the time, and I basically most probably in shock. I want to say I deferred it, I blocked it out. But one of the things that stood with me and will always stay with me is the consultant said when I had a consultation in early stage, he just said, you know what, if there's anything there, it will be in the early stages and you'll have many choices will be available to you. And that's basically what he said. He's not going to say you're going to die from it, but it was captured fairly, very early. So fast forward, I, met with the consultant, met with the surgeon, had about 3 or 4 consultations, and we, went through all the questions and all the possibilities. Luckily for me, I have a friend who's a doctor, and basically the doctor and her team was able to look over my scan and get the actual doctor's information or the hospital information from the MRI scan. And basically I had choices between a couple of hospitals. Again, I was very, 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 very fortunate to have those options available to me. The other hospitals said Charing Cross is the #1 for prostate cancer and you're in good hands. So the choice is yours. So the choices which were put before me was either chemo, monitor it, take my prostate out. There was also home drugs as well, which I could use. And I decided, I monitored it for a little while. My PSA still continued to rise, and it steadied because my consultant basically said, here are a few things that I would suggest to you. If you decide to go for an operation, you need to get fit. So, a few of the excess pounds that I had to drop. And following from that, he says, just eat greens, green stuff, whatever it is, spinach, cabbage, whatever it is, this green, just eat it. So I, OD'd on okra, what else? Broccoli, they became my really good friends. And what you find is when you share it with people, share the fact that you have got prostate, people tell you to do some ridiculous things. And that's basically, it's up to you what choices you wish to take. But I decided, and on medical information from 2 different hospitals, I decided to have my prostate out. What was told to me, I'm young, I can, get myself fit, get myself, strengthen my bones, strengthen my muscles. So I'll be in a really good place. But whatever you do, that's the beginning, because mentally you have to create that environment of positivity. You have to remain positive. I heard a couple of the speakers saying that you have to remain positive. That positive vibrations, travels all the way through. I'm a spiritual person. People saying their prayers all around the world. I believe all those things help. And I had my operation. Operation is most probably about 6 hours, 7 hours. stayed in, and basically I'm still on the road to recovery. And that was a year ago. I remember the date. I don't generally remember the dates of, of things, but that's certainly a date that's, changed my life. And I'm just so really blessed to have my family, my partner, my children, my, even ex-partners, my friends, everyone, rallied around me. And for that, I will always be eternally grateful. And my surgeon, he was absolutely exceptional, absolutely exceptional. And he, when I tell people what he said, get yourself fit, eat greens, stay away from fatty foods, don't, reduce your meat intake. If you want to have a meat, just have, one really good quality piece of steak to get your proteins, and so on and so forth. So, for everyone, there's people on this call who I've recognized, who have supported me from a professional capacity, even from a family capacity. And for them, at this stage, I would like to say thank you. If I haven't said it, and I'm sure I have, but if I haven't said it to you personally, I'm saying to you publicly as well. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. And it's good to hear people sharing their experiences. Chris, I know you from college days. I don't know the other gentleman, Errol, and so on. So, we'll hook up together, and we'll see how we can continue with the positive work, how we can help people going forward.
Well, thanks, Sama. And I am sure that Errol has been in front of your camera at some point, trust me.
Okay. Okay.
I just want to echo what Sam said there, and Chris and Patricia will bear witness, because the most important thing is talking, sharing and talking, because when you have this problem, you can't do this by yourself. You cannot get it by yourself. It has to be because when you're diagnosed with this illness, it's not just you that are diagnosed, it's your partner, it's your family, the people that you're close to, because they don't want to talk about it, you're frightened to realize, and Chris alluded to it, right, that, people that you would have staked your money on, right, that if they had a problem, they tell you. But this is one subject and we need to learn from the sisters that we have here today and beyond, that, women talk about these issues. We as men, we are still keeping it under the closet.
And I think well said, Eric. We're going to come into that. I'm very conscious that I need to get to the doctor, and then we're going to open it up and have a discussion. And I can see that B's been waiting to ask a question, and Patricia is there to ask a question. But Dr. Rajesh, would you come in, please?
Hi, I hope you can hear me. I'm Raj Karpi. I'm a consultant urologist. I work at Norfolk Park in Central Middlesex. I think I may, in fact, have spoken to Errol on the telephone. Never seen him before. I think so.
Yeah, we have.
Telling him about the. Yeah, I think we have done. Yeah. I mean, the important thing, your great stories. I think all of you guys have had surgery and radiotherapy, but I think Errol's had as well. I think in terms of prostate cancer diagnostics, the first thing is that a lot of patients with prostate cancer will not have any symptoms at all. So if you're, 40, 45 or something like that, get your GP to do a PSA. There's no reason not to do a PSA, particularly if you're African or Caribbean. It's just no reason not to do it. If you've got a family history, get a PSA done. Nowadays, rectal exams aren't even done as part of a diagnostic workup. What we do is a man will have a PSA. You will get one PSA. I always recommend getting it double checked, just in case it's gone up because you've had a urine infection or you've got a big prostate or something like that. Just get it checked again a few weeks later. If people talk about if you have rectal exam, it will go up. If you have sex beforehand, it will go up. It doesn't make that much difference. It's about 0.1 or 0.2 it goes up by. You have your PSA done. You have your couple of PSAs ideally. You'll be referred in as a 2-week wait referral. You'll then be triaged into looking at your medical condition, your history, your age and all that, most likely into having an MRI scan. You have the MRI scan, and that will pretty much, quite confidently, will be able to say, Do you have prostate cancer that looks suspicious, or can we continue to monitor you? We're not doing biopsies for all these patients, and this comes from the trials done at UCH. You know, we look at the scans, we grade them. Is this a high grade suspicious scan, or is it a low grade suspicious scan? And if it's high grade, you'll then go off to have biopsies. Now, COVID has brought forward a lot of things, but one of the positives that's come out of it is that we're no longer doing transrectal ultrasound guided biopsies. There are very few of them. Most people are having what we call perineal biopsies. The perineum is the area between the scrotum and the back passage, and we take some samples of the prostate from there. The benefit of that, infection rates are low. And then, you know, in the past, I would never have given a prostate cancer diagnosis to somebody over the telephone, but that's happening now because we can't see patients. You know, we're still taking all the diagnostic work, whereas COVID hasn't stopped us doing that. It did for a few months, but now we're seeing all the patients and we're breaking the news to the patients, you know, over the telephone and giving them all the options. In a broad sort of thing, prostate cancer is in low risk, intermediate risk, and high risk. And what we're after is picking people up who have got low risk or intermediate risk cancer, because they're the ones you can cure. If you've got high risk cancer, you may still be able to cure them if it hasn't spread outside of prostate. And that's why we want people getting their PSAs done early. You've then got the options of surgery, radiotherapy, or even monitoring. And the reason we monitor these patients, or some of you guys, is because you can often have something indolent that's going to be there, doesn't necessarily need any treatment. We can just follow you up. And a lot of patients feel happier with that, because then you don't have the risk of any side effects from the treatments that we have. But of course, the biggest, you know, I'm happy when patients come back to me with side effects 5 years later, 6 years later, because, hey, you're around 6 years later, 5 years later, to whinge at me with your side effects. If you weren't around because you died from the prostate cancer, it doesn't matter. But you're around to complain that this is going on, that's going on. I'm happy with that. I can cope with that. So, you know, if you've got any questions for me, I'm happy to sort of take them, but I won't carry on. I could probably go on for hours.
Yeah, we're going to come to the questions very shortly. Okay, can we go to Patricia then?
So basically, my journey in talking about prostate cancer and supporting prostate cancer started with the amazing Errol McKellar, who I interviewed on my radio show. So I'm a radio presenter and TV host for talk shows. And I interviewed Errol McKellar on the Let's Talk show. And it was an amazing interview and really opened my eyes up to what happens for men, because for women, we have smear test calls and we get that done on a regular basis. That's kind of really what we do. So following that, I then started attending some events with Errol, and Chris, you were at one of those events down at Ladbroke Grove. But what I want to say is why this is so important, because it really does need to be spoken about. So this is an amazing platform, so well done. I'm also having conversation with Errol about appearing on the television show so that this can be an international conversation, because that really needs to happen. But to say, after speaking with Errol and doing some of the health events, my brother came to see me, and the first indication was really quite a random one. It was that he was late, and he's never, ever late. He's very punctual. So he was late, he didn't look very well. And I said, you don't look well and you're never late. Anyway, he had the check done, and of course, he had prostate cancer. And so it affects, as a female, I didn't really know how to support him. But I called on his best friend, I hope Sam doesn't mind me sharing, who happens to be Sam. And ironically, Sam then went off to support him. And a few weeks later, then Sam was telling the same story. Sam and I have a son together, so I had to support my son through this. And then he now has an understanding about what he has to do generationally. It's really important, so important to speak to your sons. It's also really important to speak and share with the women. And women, I'd say to you, I noticed that my brother was late, a very random thing, but he was late and didn't look well. Errol spoke about his wife noticing that he was snoring. I think any kind of differences that we notice in our partners, because sometimes when it's ourselves that's ill, we don't recognize the difference, and we observe our partners all the time. So I kind of wanted to say this isn't just a story about men, it's a story about everybody. And so I'm glad that there are other females on here, because we have a role to play in supporting our men, our family members, our partners, our brothers, and to educate our sons, if we do have sons, that this is what they need to do. So I kind of just wanted to add that. I'm really looking for people to continue the support that myself and Errol have started. We are going to Downing Street because Errol and I have got some work to do. So well done. That's my contribution to this evening. So thank you for giving me the airtime.
Fantastic. No, fantastic. And any more questions that we're going to start looking? I've got something to ask Errol, Chris, Sam, and Mick. Errol spoke about this. There's a lot of foolish pride where, you know, we just don't do the things that we're supposed to do. Now, looking back, what advice would you give somebody, you know, in approaching the fact of looking at their health, particularly when it comes to a prostrate? You know, how we get rid of that foolish pride that exists where we just don't think we need to. Please jump in.
For me, as I said, a situation happened where my friend didn't have a chance to. Prostate cancer is a cancer that you can live with. You can live with, in the sense of, with the treatment and the surgery that's out there, it gives you a life. Now, my friend didn't have a choice. He died within a week of cancer. And I just want to touch on what Sam said, what Patricia said. Ladies have been massive in my support and my understanding, because part of the well-being after you've had surgery, in a way, you end up living like a lady. Now, this is something I'm just going to touch on, because a lot of people don't understand that once you've had your prostate removed, it's basically, it weakens your whole bladder area. And you have to go through a process of building up the muscles around there, doing pelvic floor exercises. And if you know somebody if you support somebody through a pregnancy and afterwards, they will be telling you about these things. And us men, we take it for granted. That, you know, weeping bladders, you think this is something that only happens to a lady. Well, I had to go through a period of wearing a pad, wearing a little pouch, while my pelvic floor exercise was being built up. And the more I spoke about it, it wasn't the men. The men wouldn't come and speak about it, but I would speak about it to the men. But it was the ladies that used to come back and say, "Oh, now you know how I feel." But they weren't kind of just teasing me in that way. They were supporting me, you know. And even I think it was my wife that said, "I think you should design design a new pad for men," because I found out that what they had for men, what we had to wear, wasn't suitable. It gave us like a six-pack down there, and we don't want six-packs down there. We want a nice shape, but not a six-pack, you know, in that lower region. And I ended up, I'm quite happy to say this, ended up with using female sanitary towels, which were lighter and doing the job, and much more. And it was a case of, these were the things I had to learn. And the ladies around me, my friends, sisters, they were like, I was talking to them about it. And then they started to talk to me about their cancer, female. So I'm in a circle, I'm in a group with females talking to me about breast cancer. All because I've been involved in prostate cancer. Females are talking to me. It's allowing me to have the conversation. And that means the word is spreading. So the more people we speak to, the more you know, the kind of situations where men don't want to talk about it, it will come out. Errol, is your mic? Go ahead.
You know what? I'm actually glad that Chris brought that point up, and just to show you guys how important women are, well, I still had to step out the room and get my wife to unmute, and that's what we men go through, right? The minute it's not working, right, we're embarrassed, but we have to go to the women in our life, and you know, Patricia alluded to that, and she's met my wife Sharon, so she knows, you know, we as men, you know, this pride thing is in the way of what's happening to us. You know, I mean, look, guys, I've got less than 20% from here down to my kneecap, right? That's how critical this conversation is. So it doesn't get more serious than this, you know? And when you say that to somebody, the first thing they do, right, they look at you and they think that you're crazy. But and I have to go back to Dr. Rajis, right, for what he was saying, right? It's so important, go to your doctor. If there's a problem, right, we men, right, don't notice the same way women see, they see everything. Even in their sleep, they see things, I didn't know what my symptoms was until I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I was getting up 3-4 times a night. I was making an excuse for that. I'm saying, okay, you know what? I'm at that age where it's happening. I'm going to the toilet. It's coming out like I need a plumber because it's dribbling. I'm making an excuse for that. So it's not standing up right like Usain Bolt. It's acting like Mo Farah. So I'm kind of thinking, well, okay, I've got to stop thinking that I'm Tarzan and realize that I've got to condition myself to do a marathon instead of sprint. And it's real. When particularly with our men, Afro-Caribbean men and Asian men, right? It's 1 in 12, 1 in 4 of us, right? We have a doctor here who doesn't mind us coming to see him, right? What we got to do, what we have to keep doing is keep talking about it. This forum today, right? The importance of this is so far bigger than we realize, because we don't do this. Chris and myself, we've been out on talks. Patricia, listen, I mean, it takes a woman to sit down with you and get you to bring out the inner things that go on with us men, and we spoke about it on a radio station, and the response that came from it, right? We caught men on a good day when they felt they needed to say something. And what's important is the more talking that we do, the better this problem, because this, my dad, I went and told my dad that I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And you know what he said? He said, son, I had that 5 years earlier. That's what he said to me. I was so angry, I couldn't talk to him for 6 months. But when I started doing these talks and going out, I realized this is very, very common, So, listen, Sam and Mick, I'm proud of them because they've got up and done something about it. Chris and myself, we've spoken at length about it. I look around, I look at everybody here today, and everybody's here for a reason. We are here to try to make a difference. We're at the Errol McKellar Foundation. We are working on something now. Chris and Patricia are aware of, about bringing a mobile testing vehicle out there to bring wonderful people like, Dr. Rajesh to do this mobile PSA testing. Because listen, every year we have to MOT your car, but we're not doing this with our bodies. Men are not going to the doctors, men are not going to the hospital, right? COVID has done one of two things. It's opened the door, but it's also allowed certain people to make an excuse for not going. So we're saying, if you're not going to the doctors or the hospitals, Chris and myself and Patricia, and Sam, we're coming to you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much, Errol. Doctor, please, you've had your hand up.
No, I was just going to sort of say that you said, talking about your women partners, whenever I try and break news, I always say, look, are your wives or partners or somebody around? Because I will say something to the patient won't remember a thing, and the wives will then say, did you ask this? Did you ask that? Did you ask this? So, I always say, look, is your partner around? I'll speak to them. If your family members, I'll speak to them. I'll give them a separate call if that's what they want, because it's just so useful to have that discussion in the first time round. And the other thing you talk about, sort of things that women have gone through with the leaking of urine, we can help with this, both men and women. That's my particular area of expertise. But if you've been on hormones, and I suspect that Errol did because he went on to radiotherapy, then that will give you hot flushes, just like the menopause that the women get. And these are something that you sort of need to be aware of. And the snoring bit I wanted to sort of pick up on as well. One of the things a lot of patients have is if you've got a big thick neck, and a lot of African and Caribbean men do, and they snore very loudly, that can be one of the reasons you may be going to pass urine a bit more often. Nothing to do with your prostate at all, but more to do with something called sleep apnea. And it's something else that can be picked up, can be treated, and can make a difference.
Okay, Doctor, listen, I've got a question here.
Yeah.
In the chat, says, as a man of 58, it is unnatural. Is it unnatural to wake up twice a night to urinate? Also, sometimes I urinate and 5 minutes later I feel I need to go again.
So it depends on if it's bothering you. Some guys will say, I've got a weak bladder, I've had a weak bladder all the time, I get up once or twice at night. It's not a problem if they go back to sleep, but if it's bothering you, if it's something new, you probably just want to sort of consider it. To be honest, I've been on a fitness program and lost quite a lot of weight recently, and they told me drink 3.5 litres of fluid a day, which I am. Now I keep getting up at about 4 in the morning. I know it's got nothing to do with my prostate because I've got the privilege of getting blood tests done and flow rates done. It's because I'm drinking a lot. But if you are drinking a lot, you may go a little bit more towards the evening. But no, it's not normal. But if it bothers you, get something done for it. It's not necessarily a sign of prostate cancer, though.
I've got another question to the gentlemen who are in remission. With my other hat on, I'm a psychotherapist. And one of the things, I mean, from that question, you know, what I pick up is the stress, the mental stress. And what role did that play whilst one from learning you've got it to the attitude you took when you had it to now the attitude you take, whether it be living with it or coming out of recovery? Can you talk to me about that, the mental health journey?
I'll take that one, guys. The mental health is and this is unprecedented times that we're living in. So you have many other things as well to consider. So isolation, not, seeing your friends and having a laugh, or, watching football together and, having the usual banter. That can be a strain. And, the way how we're speaking today, we're just living testimony that if you have a positive mindset, and you're just, I'm not saying every day you wake up, you're bouncing, and you're going to have your challenges, your challenging day, your challenging moment. And, each day you get stronger and stronger. And if you believe in that, you're going to be in a better place. I know people who, as you said, we all know people here who have passed away because of prostate cancer. So, you're being given an opportunity. You grasp that opportunity. You see it as a blessing. That's what's meant to happen for you, whatever your call is. Some people, most people don't even know what their call is in life. I'm one of those individuals. I do photography. Yes, that's great. But who knows where, what the Lord has in store for you. So for me, it was just that keeping that during the dark days, keeping that positive mindset throughout, and having those around you who has equally got positive mindset. My friends, they've been absolutely first rate, and that's why I commend them. And I think it starts from within yourself. Even if I wasn't, a positive person, the more positivity you have, and I'm sure the doctor will tell you about endorphins and so on and so forth, that is going to be the greatest healing for you. So there is some similarity between myself, Chris, and Errol. We're strong, not only outwardly, but inwardly strong, because we're, maintaining that positivity in what we're doing. And that's, every day is a success. And to me, that's how I look at it. And that's how I don't stop it I don't use it as an excuse to say, oh, I can't do A, B, C, or D. And as the days roll on, the months roll on, you then have to get your PSA checked, starting from 3 months, then going on to 6 months, then going on to yearly, and so on and so forth. It's the best decision you make in your life, particularly for, if you've got children and you want them to, you want to pass on that information to your children, to your family, to your friends, and for them to look at you and say, you know what, even if I have got a problem, I know you can overcome it. And, Sam, you're just being positive all the way through.
I think going through cancer is a really mind-blowing, tough period in your life. I've got a lovely partner, and if it wasn't for her, I don't think I would be as recovered as well as I have, because it's a journey where you need somebody strong with you as well as trying to be strong yourself. It was a point in time when I was first diagnosed, I wasn't going to do anything about it. I thought, well, I can't go through this. I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to leave things as they are, and what happens to me will happen to me. But having a partner, a strong woman beside me, really made me understand that, you know what, Mick, you're on a journey, and no matter what happens, you're in this together. And I think going with a strong partner keeps you going. I mean, even now, it's a year since my operation, and it still affects me. Just thinking about it, what I went through, it still affects me, and what I'm still going through, because there's lots of ups and downs with this illness, and it takes a long time to really get your head around it, what's going on with your body. So I've been lucky that I've got somebody beside me that is really egging me on, and don't worry, Mick, we're going to get through this. It takes time. It does take time to recover, if you can recover, because it's a long road. You know what I mean? So I've been very lucky.
Thank you. Thank you. But Chris?
Well, I'll just keep this one short. Stress. I do not, since my surgery, during my remission, getting through this, there are things that would upset me, whereas prior to having cancer, I might have sulked a bit longer, maybe made a bit more noise. I try not to take it on, because I've been given a second chance, and stress is a killer. And stress is not good for my body. I've also got thyroid problems, in the sense that I'm on thyroxine because I had my thyroid removed. So my whole mindset is much more positive. That doesn't mean I'll agree with you, but if I disagree with you, I would not make a fuss about it. I would just find a positive way, move away, and continue doing something positive. That's the way I'm working with it.
Wonderful.
Just a quick piece on that, right? What Chris has said, I mean, for me, in those 48 guys that came into my garage that was diagnosed, 2 of those guys are no longer here, right? One was 42 years of age, right? He lasted 10 months when he found out. The other guy was 36 years of age. But for me, what was sad about those 2 guys, the guy that was 42 years of age was unlucky, right? The guy that was 36 years of age, when he stood up in front of me and told me what he had, he then decided to tell me that his 2 brothers were suffering from prostate cancer issues. His dad was suffering from it, and his uncle was suffering from it. So, you know, I just allude to what Mick and Sam were saying. You know, listen, if you don't wake up with a positive mind to address this, right? You know, this is an illness that if you ignore it, it will kill you. You know, you can't be more blunt than that, you know? And we go back to what the doctor's saying, you know, listen, it's no different to treating your car to an MOT, you know? Go and see your doctor. Your doctor is like me, a qualified mechanic. If there's something wrong with your car, you come and see me. If there's something wrong with me, I'm going to see the doctor.
Thank you, Errol. Patricia, you.
Yeah, just to kind of reiterate how important it is to have these conversations. And I've noticed that actually you're recording it. I know that down at the Jason Roberts site, there's the amazing space, which I think you're probably sitting in, Mike. And I just want to make a suggestion, because Sam done an amazing audio, which I think should be shared. But I'm also thinking about whether or not the guys that are survivors who feel comfortable enough to do some short videos to say, my name is, I've experienced prostate cancer, this is what I did, I'm a survivor. Because when our son found out about his dad having prostate cancer, he couldn't have that conversation. But what he asked for was to listen to the show that I had done with Errol. So he just sat in the car, there was no conversation, he just sat and heard what was discussed. It's just a suggestion. I'm happy to help with the coordination of it. But I just think this is so important, and recording of it's amazing. And that's
you're ahead of the game, because the whole objective of this was to share this.
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we want to do. And strangely enough, the next place I was taking this was saying that just like you market any product or any brand, we need to market this message. And so what we need to do, you can walk into any barbershop when they're open and see loads of leaflets for dances and the local place. Why don't we see prostate cancer leaflets? Why don't we point towards the things that we're doing here now? And that's that's the work of what we see the Cultural Media Centre doing, bringing together the issues that matter and lending them a voice and pushing it out there. So from what you've seen here, this is exactly what we're going to do. This will be made available on our online channel. That link will be shared. What we'd like to do, if that can be distributed, when the hairdressers and the barbershops open, and we can give them a link, because people are captive. They're sitting there. They're not going anywhere for a couple of hours. Listen to something that could make a difference to your life and to those that love you. So we're on the same page. And Patricia, we never, ever turn away support and people volunteer. So you are welcome. The door is going to be.
I'm right there. So I'm offering 2 platforms to do that. But I'm just so overwhelmed, because I run talks like this about menopause, and there was some allusion to menopause when the doctor spoke. And these are just so important, because like you said, we talk about raving, we talk about Trump, we talk about foolishness, and we don't talk about enough stuff like this. That's so important. So so thank you for the airtime.
No, that's no problem whatsoever. Do we have any more questions from the floor? Doctor, your hand up because you want to ask another question.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to sort of make a comment about social media. I mean, a lot of people, obviously, it's all about social media. Trump recently being banned from everything. It's not a bad thing. But when people are looking up on prostate cancer, I think you need to be careful of what you're seeing on the social media and what websites you're looking at. And it's really important that people are looking at the right sources. Prostate Cancer UK is fantastic. Macmillan is fantastic. I mean, if you watch any football match now, all the commentary team have got the British prostate cancer man on their sort of lapel there. Everybody's got it. I don't know if you guys have got it or not, but prostate cancer is out there, but people don't necessarily see things. They're looking at it, but they're not seeing what's sort of in front of them.
Can I just add to that one of the reasons why I formed this Errol McKellar Foundation, right, is because this is what we need. This is exactly what we need, because it's the truth. And Mike, yourself, and if you bring Patricia on board with you, trust me, right, people will listen, right? This is a woman that people listen to, right? And I'm happy to share this, right, on this charity, right? Because listen, prostate cancer don't care about your color. The stats are what they are, but it doesn't care about your color. It doesn't care about your wealth. It really doesn't care about you. What it does, if you ignore it, it will kill you. So we need to be listening to people like Dr. Raji. We need to be listening to him, because this is a man who, listen, there's a lot of doctors that don't understand. When people like us go into this building, right, they look at us and say, well, what's the problem? And a lot of us shy away, because the battle is to get to the doctor in the first place. So what you don't want is the doctor to then give you a conversation that almost makes you want to leave without being seen to. So when you have a doctor like this doctor who is happy to see you and wants you to share your experience, and that's why he made the valid point, always try to go with your partner, because men only hear 1% of the conversation, women hear 110% of it. Yeah. And we have today this is the main reason why we need this platform in more ways than one.
And in terms of PSA, so quickly, in terms of PSA testing, there are charities. I don't know if Farrell does it or not, but if you can get in touch with me later, that'd be great. But there are charities out there who are doing walk-in sort of services. You just get your PSA tested. You get a letter saying your risk stratification. If Errol's not doing that, if you get in touch with me, I can put you in touch with somebody who is doing that. And he's got 100,000 plus PSA tests, done as part of that. And all people are sort of said, you don't even have to pay for it. Just give us a £10 donation towards the admin fees and things like that. And do the PSA, you send your letters and things like that.
Well, and I think what we're talking about, which is coming across strongly from, it's kind of the under conversation of what Patricia and what Errol are talking about, which is within our communities, we need to stand still and take a look. We're too busy running on, getting on with this and getting on with that, instead of just standing still and saying, what is really going on here? So it's that moment to market to our communities. We need to get them to stand still, to say, hold on, wait a minute. No, you're going to listen to this because you need to. Okay, what's over there is not as important as what we're showing you here. And I think that message is coming across very, very clearly. Please, any more coming from the floor?
Guys, it's important.
Me again, sorry.
It's important to always have a conversation. We can't be having 1 minute silence, 2 minute silence, because if there's something on your mind, say it, right? Listen, what's important, I tell people, it's not just donations we want, it's ideas. Because by coming together, right, we can make a difference. And I applaud you, Mike, for taking this whole situation by the scruff of the neck. So, big respect to you for that, Mike.
And I just wanted to say, sorry, I just want to say it's not just the African and the Caribbean population. I work in the big Indian, Asian, South Asian population. We have a lot of patients coming from the South Asians who do have prostate cancer as well, and they're ignoring it. And I think just the comment I saw in the thing from Trevor about weight loss and sort of blood pressure and diabetes and all those sorts of things amongst black men, that's higher as well, and that's something else that should be addressed. And it is possible to lose weight. I know it is. Most people say, oh, it's my thyroid, it's my glands or whatever. Look, the reason most of us who are overweight is because we eat the wrong food, we don't do the exercise. And if you deal with some of those things, that would help with the other sort of health issues as well. And it is possible because I've done it myself quite recently.
I think that's such an important point, because again, it's connecting the dots. Some of the things that we're doing down at the centre, particularly during COVID, we actually do have an over 50s online fitness class that takes place twice a week. We're doing things that help you build your immune system, because again, once we start moving into that area, the immune system is so important. That's also why, putting my psychotherapist hat on, that's why it's important to have a positive attitude, because it does release the right chemical reaction in your body, and you are in a much better place to deal with issues going forward. All of these things are extremely, extremely important. Now, I don't know how many people who haven't got their cameras on are listening because they might think that this could be me, this is happening to me. I mean, we're just glad you're here. We're glad you're here. We're glad you're listening. And do us all a favor here. If you're going to go and have a check yourself, bring a mate with you and get them checked as well. Don't just make it yourself. Let's go, bring a mate, or go down as a group and say, we're going to do this. All it takes is one of you to stand up in your group, and you have a group, we all have friends, and said, let's go and do this together and share at that level. Chris, please.
I just want to, that's a really good point. Yeah, don't feel like you're alone in this. There's many people out there to support you. But the age, we just touched on the age. Now, I was in my early 50s. I would say, if you got it in your family, there's no harm in your early 40s. If you've got sons, nephews, what have you, early 40s, even late 30s, go and get a blood test. Yeah. Get it recorded. Get a record. Get into a routine every 2 years, maybe at an early age. If it's in your family, you've got to do it. Don't think, oh, well, uncle had it, my son won't have it. You don't know. Nothing, no harm. get a blood test, have that result on your record. Something to be more. That's why I was alerted. I had a record, so I saw it increased. So we were able to work on the fact that something had changed.
I just want to, just take that conversation to the next level. There are people here, as you said, on the group who may not know what the first step is. It's a public forum. You may not feel comfortable, but listen, if you want to reach me out, or any one of the persons, I know Errol or no Chris is not going to turn you away. Whoever you feel comfortable with, if you feel comfortable talking to Pat or anyone for that matter, they will direct you to a person who you may feel comfortable in talking to. And we will, we'll be here to support you. And that is very, very, very important. You're not alone. You may not even want to discuss it with your family, what you want to do. But certainly we are here. And if you want to reach out to us, to give us a call. And I know that's what, I could say what I'm doing. And, I just say to many people who I'm supporting directly, indirectly, quietly, they've reached out to me and I've just, given them the benefit of my experience. And it's as simple as that. You're not alone. This is really important for you to understand that. We haven't got, 5 heads. We're not going to blank you. We're not going to laugh. We're not going to, we're going to take it very, very seriously because it's life or death. If you take the right decisions, you give yourself and your family the opportunity to survive. And that's all I can, emphasize to you. So let's reach out to any one of us if you don't feel comfortable in doing it by yourself. And we'll talk to you offline and we'll give you the necessary support and, give you the necessary follow-ups as well. You have the doctor there, guys, and females, just have that discussion with your partners, with your brothers, with your fathers, your God's children, you name them. Just have that discussion. It starts with a conversation and say there's people out here who's willing to support you and help you. So if you don't feel comfortable talking with me about it, you can certainly discuss it with people who are surviving.
We're real people. Real people.
One moment. Yeah. I've got the other Sammy A, please.
I think firstly, thanks for everyone for sharing and coming and speaking. I think personally, I joined the call late, so I'm sorry. But what I wanted to do was just at the last few minutes for you to offer or to summarize what the offerings and different options were. But I think during the end, I've started to hear some of that. I wanted to understand exactly what was on offer through the Errol McKellar Foundation in terms of the FOT, in terms of the MOT offerings. And clearly you're encouraging all people to go to their doctor to do that test. But then if you can't, what are the other offerings or signposts to material that people can go to? And then just on your, I'll just on your point as to the flyers and the stuff that you said, one idea that came to mind was about a QR code being on the flyers that would at least make it easier for people to scan that and then access the information that you're signposting them to. So that was it.
Oh, that's great, and I do think that there are other areas. Once we start to look at what the network that's within our touching range, our own personal networks, you can tap in. There are things that could be done where schools start to talk about it, so that the children come home and say something to the parents. There are so many ways in that we're not using, and we can start to use those things, and that's going to be very, very important. So thank you for that, Sam, and thank everybody for all their contributions. Now, one of the things that has come across, and I know we're talking about prostate cancer, but one of the underlying things that has come across, regardless of what the illness is, it's the fact that we're in denial when it's happening. And I think that that's a big thing. And that's something that I'm quite emotional about, because in November 2013, I was living in the island of Grenada, and I was sick, and I did not realise how sick I was. My wife, like you just said, was telling me how sick I was, and I wasn't. And I ended up in a business meeting in Grenada where I collapsed. And it turned out that I'd attracted pernicious anemia, and I was 48 hours away from dying. They weren't capable of looking after me in Grenada, where I was living. And that's the reason I'm back in the UK now. I came here, I've got on the plane to come and say goodbye to my children. Everybody had given up on me. And luckily, I was stabilized. I ended up having full open heart surgery, and I'm here in front of you now. But had it not been for my wife taking notice, and there's a story that, you know, the role that you women play is amazing. Had it not been for her, I would not be here today. But that, I should not be boasting about that. I should.
It's the truth. It's the truth.
Be taking care of my business. I shouldn't have my wife do it. And that is the message that we need to know. We need to get our fellow brothers, regardless of your culture, taking care of your business.
But it's the truth. I mean, we go back to what Sam said at the early part of his conversation. By talking, right, and sharing this information. Listen, we're not too old to learn. That's the key to all of this, you know, and what we try to tell people, don't die through fear and ignorance, because that's the two biggest problems, right? We would rather suffer this illness and many other illnesses in silence, you know. And look at, you know, you've just alluded to the most important thing is that support network, you know. And women, whether it's a natural instinct or not, right, they have that in abundance. So sometimes we have to swallow our pride and learn from our sisters, you know, because first of all, we learned from our mother. So why should we think it should be different when we're with somebody who, remember, cares about us enough to notice when things ain't right?
Mm-hmm. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely.
We gotta make change. We have to all, in this forum here now, there's people here and beyond who are capable of making change, right? But one person, listen, they give me an MBE. They didn't give me an MBE. They give all of us here tonight an MBE, right? Because I didn't save 1 million people. You, Patricia, particularly you guys helped me to save this amount of people. So this isn't about me. This is about we making a difference. Right? And we can make a difference, but we have to be, as Sam said, and Sam said, if you get up right and you start your day positive, right, then you will continue to be positive. If you get up right with a flat tire, then you're driving on a flat tire, right? It's as simple as that, really.
But Errol, I would say to you that Chris, yourself, Sam, Nick, and anybody else who have come and put themselves up, you know, you're laying yourself bare before us to say, look, this is my story.
Yeah.
Don't let it be yours.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is such a humble thing to do. And I think on that note, I want to thank everybody for taking part this evening. It's been wonderful. We are going to share this. I'm going to let Otis say some closing words. And without a doubt, Patricia, we're going to hook up. We're going to move this thing forward. And health is on the agenda, and we're going to do something about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi guys. Hi, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you for all coming on and your continued support. The guys in the room, Patricia, there's so much important work to be going on in our communities. And you know, I've been sat here listening to this call and so many familiar faces. And I just think, you know, the resource we've got here at the foundation, the resources we've got around London and the resources that we are as people, I think we need to start using them and go as a movement and start supporting each other's initiatives. Health in this difficult time is top of the agenda, but what we need to do is support each other. And I, for one, I think when we come off this call, we need to start networking. We need to provide information that people who have been on this call can tell another person. And what we're trying to do this month is in the next 5 or 6 days, we're going to have another one of these conversations. We're not ever able to have it in person around diabetes, and just try to keep that health conversation going. You know, alongside the jovial things and things, we need to address the things that matter. And I think that every single one of you, I would like to really thank you for coming on this call, because I know from a personal experience, I've been speaking to Sam this week, and I'm one of those that puts off, and I get to the doctor and I'm hoping that I'm late, or do you know what I mean? I'm just a little bit, you know, tetchy about it. What's going to happen? What does it entail? You start making loads of different phone calls about things that matter. And, you know, I, for one, I've got my test next week. I booked it 2-3 days ago. You know, and it was difficult for me because if there's nothing wrong with me, I think I'm okay. But I would urge people to follow suit. Hopefully, I'm in a position where I'm good. But you know, it is real. It affects all of us. I will just reiterate about women. Please, you know, they're such beautiful creatures, beautiful people, and you know, just work together as a community and support, you know, Patricia's initiatives. And Patricia, as Mike said, you're welcome to use our platform. We share content, and that's what we need to do: share messages and share our experiences, especially in this difficult time. So I just urge everyone to stay safe. Please look out for the foundation in the next couple of days about our next health conversation. Anybody on this forum that wants to come and use the Cultural Media Centre to have a voice, we'd love to hear from you. And I wish you all a good night, and stay safe. Thanks to all the contributors who came on tonight. Thanks, Mike, for hosting.
Nice one.
Really, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Take care, everyone. God bless.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thanks.
Stay safe. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks a
Stay
lot.
safe.
Everyone. Thank
Thanks.
you, everyone.
Thank you.
Safe.
God
Bye.
bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.